Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to A Better Way, a sustainable approach to wellness. Today, we are discussing the truth about exercise and the misconceptions of working out. I am Dr. Reed Winnick from Dentistry for Health New York, and I am joined with Tammy Kolschmidt from Thermography for Health New York, and we're with Adam Zickerman from Inform Fitness of New York City, located here on 56th Street on the east side of New York.
Yes, and we want to acknowledge and congratulate all of you from the bottom of our hearts for being present here with us today and for caring enough about your own personal health to share with us this precious time. So just know that all of you are disruptors to mainstream medicine.
And like us, your goal is to make a difference for yourselves, your family, and your community. We want to acknowledge your greatness because obviously nothing happens without you being present and listening to these educational webinars that we've been putting on. Question, are you frustrated with your exercise or strength training routine? Are you challenged fitting it into your busy schedule? So for the next 45 minutes, Adam will share with us his exercise program that will allow you to work smarter and not harder. You will learn the difference between exercise and activity and how to ensure you get a good workout and avoid harming your health in 20 to 30 minutes per week.
Yes, and Dr. Winnick, change the slide because I want these questions to be up. You know, every time we do a webinar, we bring these thought-provoking questions in, and we use these questions to track our awareness, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, but also what we're implementing. So the first question is, what are you thinking and feeling about exercise? This automatically should start to shift your awareness into where you're at with exercise. And do you have a healthy plan to support or change what you think and feel about exercise? So once you start creating a plan, now you've got direction, a place to go. And the third question, how great would it be if you felt like you were on the right track? So I ask myself this question to put me in that good feeling place because that gives me a sense of empowerment, which is really important. And number four, how would it feel if you were blocked or unable to get there? So this question kind of puts you in more of that negative space of what's happening in your life that is bringing you kind of down a level. And then that way it gives you momentum if you're spinning your wheels, and it helps you get navigated and back on the right track.
Great, thank you, Tammy. You know, the three of us have experienced many health challenges through our lives in the past. In fact, I would say many challenges. And we've learned that it's a long and winding road to health and being free of disease. And just when you think you are there, you stumble on a rock and realize something else is needed. And I hate when that happens. But luckily, it's happened again when I met Adam. And I'm thrilled to have met him. He's already helped my younger son, Skylar, which maybe we'll discuss later on. So thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
Many people are not aware that from the time I was about 6 years old, I was extremely ill. And I was finally diagnosed with Crohn's disease as an adult. And I experienced getting a very healthy appendix removed from my body. And I had multiple other organs and body parts cut out of me from, I'd say, 3 subsequent surgeries.
Hmm.
And then eventually I was enlightened and realized that the entire medical model was completely flawed and had limited answers. And because it treats us like a broken machine and not the whole organism that we are. So I tried to, I had to learn to be healthy. And I learned I needed to follow the same healing laws that govern Mother Nature. And so I spent the next period of my life uncovering a better way. So I and other people like yourself and the people that I love wouldn't have to suffer this way. And this is the work that I do, but really none of it matters unless we have the opportunity to educate and enlighten you. So my hope is that what you learned today has a dramatic impact on your life.
Thank you, Dr. Winnick. I have to say, and to acknowledge you also for always taking a stand for your health and also for your patients.
Thank you.
Welcome. So my story, we usually give a story about who we are as people. And when I was a young child, I was also very sick. I had debilitating asthma. So I was always kind of on the bench. I rarely participated in any kind of exercise. And then when I was about 10, I finally got into dancing and I started dance classes and I was thrilled. I fell in love with it. It was something that I could do and I could pace myself with because I really just couldn't keep up with team sports or any kind of running or racing around. As I trained hard and I actually became a professional dancer for many years. But it was in that training that I was sweating. And the more that I would sweat, it was like the healthier I got because I have an issue with detoxification. So for me, I must sweat. And I think that's probably true for a lot of you out there. You may not even realize it. So once I reached my 30s and I wasn't really dancing as hard or training as hard, my daily sweats stopped. And I actually started to get sick again. All these different health issues sort of came hurtling back. And it was then I realized I needed to get back to sweating. So I dance maybe 20 or 30 minutes, just to break that sweat. And then I do other activities like yoga, swimming, walking, biking, things like that. But now at this point in my life, I'm really interested on preserving bone and building bone. So now my focus is actually going to be with Adam's technique for strength building. And I'm really excited to get started with that and hear everything that he has to say.
Yeah, well, I can definitely tell you that I'm overdue for Adam's training, and it totally fits into my busy schedule. So Adam, I'm just curious, what led you from being a biochemist to the inventor of Informed Fitness?
Thanks for having me, by the way, and inviting me into your community. I'm honored. It started in the lab when I was, the only jock on my team in the lab, and I was always proselytizing about exercise and kind of, in a way, shaming all the guys in the lab because they don't exercise. And I was kind of telling them what they need to do and bragging about what I did, which is working out every single day, hours at a time. And I guess my boss was tired of hearing it after months of this and said to me, Adam, I've been listening to you talk about exercise for all this time. And I have to say, you look like shit.
Oh, God.
And he didn't mean necessarily that I physically looked, I was in my 20s and I was a jock and, physically I looked okay, but what he really meant was that I was sick all the time. I was tired all the time. I got injured a lot. And he pointed that out to me and he said, if that's what exercise is about, then you can count me out. And of course I poo-pooed it at the time what he said because, I thought I knew everything about exercise. And I'm poo-pooing a genius, by the way, whose IQ is a lot higher than mine. And but that's youth for you. But it was many years later that I realized what he had said was right on. What led me to what I'm doing now is a search to find a way to get into great shape, to maintain our muscle mass, which is really the goal of exercise as we get older, maintain our strength, which is so important, without undermining our health in the process. See, that's what I was doing. I was strong, I was fit, but I was also undermining my health. I had back problems, I had knee problems, I had surgery when I was 14 years old from working out the wrong way. So, here I was, a young 20-year-old already nursing injuries. Fast forward to now, as a 55-year-old, thank God I kind of, the message that my boss said back in the day, thank God that finally, that seed that he planted finally started to grow a little bit many years later when other people were also pointing out the same thing to me. And then I basically did my homework and I discovered that there is a way to get really strong without undermining your health, without causing the injuries, without compromising the joints, without overtraining and compromising your immune system. And when I discovered that way over 23 years ago, it changed my life. That was my new mission, to actually teach people that are over-exercising not to destroy their bodies in the process, and to also appeal to people that don't like exercise at all, and showing them that for a minimum amount of effort, you can actually get very, very strong and stay in great shape. And it doesn't take a lot of effort or time, really. Maybe it takes great effort, but certainly not a lot of time. In a nutshell, I basically found a way of strength training and getting really strong in 20 minutes at a time, maybe once or twice a week. That's the bottom line to our workout. And when I realized that there was a way of doing that, that was it. Changed my life, changed my career, and here I am.
Thank you, Adam. You know, two things come to mind. First, I guess it took two brainiacs, your boss and yourself, to disrupt this entire industry. So thank God that you were in that same place at a 20-year-old, and you've experienced, the problem that most young athletes experience. And you then said, wait a minute, there has to be a better way. And that's, the basis for our entire, wellness program that Tammy and I follow. So you definitely fit into our community. And, it was interesting. I was, before the webinar today, I was out in the street. I had to go someplace in the city, and I saw this tall guy and this other, like a father figure. They were talking about basketball. So my ears perked up. Long story short, we started talking. And then, of course, what do I do now whenever I meet athletes? I talk about you. And one of the key points.
Be careful.
You're
going to get a lot of pushback.
Yeah, I know, but you know what happens when you talk, you say, oh, I know this great exercise guy and he has this great, fitness center. People are like, the fault, no. Oh, so what? I know, he's like, I had this great guy around the block,
Exactly.
And then I had to explain to him what makes your place different. And the fact that you had, he might be listening to this, how you doing? The fact that you had the insight to take those machines and change them around, readapt what they do. So I think a great place to start would be, can you explain why using your machine that does this or pushes your arms is different than the other machines they find in the other gyms?
Sure. The principles, to take a step back before I talk about the machines, is, what I said earlier, we're trying to strengthen muscles without damaging joints. That's one goal. Mm-hmm. That's a big problem. People do a lot of high force activities, jumping, a lot of ballistic moves, heavy weights, explosive movements, especially athletes that try to mimic those movements that they might come up in real athletic events. So they try to mimic that in the gym. So in the name of protecting joints, I realized that conventional equipment and free weights are not ideal. Muscles have strength curves. A muscle, through a range of motion, doesn't generate the same strength through that range of motion. And that's not something you can change. We're always going to be weaker in one position of a movement than we are in another position. As an example, when you start to do a bicep curl, your biceps cannot lift as much weight from the beginning position, the bottom position, as the muscle can when the elbow is at a right angle. The bicep can hold more weight at the right angle than it can in the straight position. Well, if you're not lifting weights with momentum, which we don't do because momentum can cause injury, if you try to reduce momentum, what happens is you get stuck at the bottom with a dumbbell because the weight doesn't change at the bottom or the middle. Therefore, it's hard to get out of the bottom. Therefore, we arch our back, we use momentum to get through that range of motion, and therefore we strain the joint. So what I've learned to do from a lot of biomechanic engineers out there over the years is to design the machines where the weight, the resistance of the machine matches the strength curve of the muscle through wherever the range of motion is. So at the beginning of the bicep curl on my bicep machine, it's a little bit lighter at the beginning and it gets heavier as the muscle gets stronger. And then the muscle actually gets weaker at the top of the position. So basically, in one movement, the machine's weight is actually changing as you go through the range of motion. And that fatigues the muscle perfectly without straining the joint at any point during that range of motion. And it allows you to lift weights very slowly and smoothly and really fatiguing the muscle very deeply throughout the full range of motion. And that's really the key to getting strong. So go ahead, Tommy.
Well, I was just going to comment on that about, I remember when I used to do the leg movements, you know how you open your legs, you open and then you close?
Yeah, the hip abduction, yes.
Yes, and I used to think to myself, I hate these machines. This feels very unnatural because as a dancer, I knew the power in my legs. And those machines made me feel like I didn't have any power.
See, that's a great example, because that's a great example. The hip abduction, when you pull your leg away from your body, your muscles, the further away from the body that you lift your leg, the weaker that muscle gets.
Yeah.
And the machines you're using, conventional machines, get heavier in that position,
Yeah.
not lighter. They actually get heavier. So it's completely what we call, it's completely incongruent. I would change, so I have a machine like that, but I changed the machine to, as the muscle gets weaker on the outside, as you go out, the machine also gets lighter. So to you, it just feels balanced. It feels like you're able to do it. It doesn't feel like you're resting out there, because it's proportional to your strength level. So to you, it just feels just hard all the way through, but possible. Not like you can't get a full range of motion and you feel weak. Well, that wasn't your fault. That's not because you're weak. That was because the machine is way too heavy at the position that your abductor muscles were way too weak.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because it just came back like a lightning bolt. Like, yeah, I used to hate working out because it felt unnatural. It didn't match the strength that I knew I had. And it actually exhausted me. And then when I would dance the next day, I didn't dance as well. So,
The bigger problem is if you continue to do an exercise like that, where the resistance is incongruent to the joint, then you're going to start doing damage to that joint. And over time, you're going to start getting all the itises, you know, bursitis, arthritis, tendonitis. All those things come from overstraining a joint with too much weight.
okay, so let's talk about reps and how much time that you should actually even be doing high intensity exercise.
Well, the type of exercise that I teach, it falls under a category called high intensity exercise.
Okay.
High intensity training, HIT for short. If you Google HIT training, you're going to get tons of stuff. The basic idea of high intensity training, which was really started by a guy named Arthur Jones back in the 60s, late 60s. You might not know the name Arthur Jones, but you will know this name of the company that he invented, Nautilus.
Oh, yeah.
So Nautilus came out, as you might remember, in the mid 60s, late 60s, and then hit its heyday in the 70s and 80s. There were Nautilus centers all around. And his basic idea was less is more intensity, less time. All right, so high intensity training means that he understood, Arthur Jones understood, that it's not how many reps you do or how long that you work out for, but the quality of the workout. And once you stimulate a muscle, leave it alone. Let it do its job. Remember, exercise is just a stimulus. All right, the body responds to that stimulus, and it's the response of the body that makes it stronger. All right, playing the guitar doesn't give you calluses on your fingers. Playing the guitar when you're a beginner irritates the tips of your fingers, and then your body responds to that irritation, building calluses. So it's not the guitar playing itself that builds calluses, it's the response of the body that builds calluses. Same thing with strength. You fatigue a muscle very deeply, the body's going to respond to that. The body does not count repetitions. It does not count hours. It doesn't say you need to work out X amount of time or do X amount of reps to get stronger. It says you fatigue me deeply enough, I'll get stronger, especially if you leave me enough rest. So what high intensity training is fatiguing a muscle as deeply as you can, as quickly as you can, as safely as you can, and letting the body do its job and then getting out of your body's way. So that's the basic premise of high intensity training. Brief, intense strength training that's done hopefully safely, biomechanically correct. Now, if you do that, most workouts should not take more than 20 minutes or a half an hour to work out the whole body. Now, there are so many variations of high intensity training, but that's a general idea. And of course, there are lots of different populations out there, and there are lots of people that respond differently to exercise, just like patients respond differently to all kinds of medications.
Mhm.
I mean, Dr. Winnick, I mean, I assure you, right? You can probably say that, you know, not the same amount of Novocaine even works for everybody. You have to always alter even just Novocaine for different patients. Some don't even respond at all to Novocaine, and some are allergic to it. So you can't even always use that. Well, again, I'm generalizing. You take an individual and then you alter these general principles to what fits them. Maybe they need 20 minutes. Maybe they need a half an hour. Maybe somebody needs more compound movements than simple movements. Maybe people need to do lighter weights to achieve fatigue, or heavier weights to achieve fatigue based on their muscle fiber typing. So there's all these variations. But the overall idea for everybody is fatigue the muscles super deeply, do it as safely as you can, and let the body respond. And that's how you get stronger. One more thing to answer your question is how often. So once you do a workout like that, again, you need the body needs time to get stronger. It doesn't get stronger overnight. It doesn't even get stronger in the next 36 hours, even 48 hours. When you fatigue a muscle very deeply, it probably takes good 5 to 7 days to actually make itself stronger. So we tend to overexercise. We think more is better. If one 20-minute workout is really good, what about 4 20-minute workouts in a week? Now you're starting to get into overtraining. Just like if a doctor tells you to take 1 pill a day for 7 days, and then you say to yourself, I don't want to wait 7 days. So instead, you take 2 pills a day for 3.5 days. Now that can become a very toxic situation. That's not better. You can kill yourself doing something like that.
Right.
On the other hand, not enough exercise, not enough intensity. You can work out every single day. You're not going to get any response. So if you're just doing 10 reps but no intensity every single day, you go to the gym and you're reading the magazine and you're talking and you're wasting a lot of time in between, and you can be going every single day for hours a day. You're not going to get any exercise response.
Right. I'm just, why does everyone always equate a dentist with painful Novocaine shots? I don't get that, but I can say your other theory would say, well, if we give someone some kind of herbal medicine or something, the dose is never the same for one person as compared to another, because they have different weight and they have different medical issues. So we have to keep the dosage. And I assume your workout plan for an athlete that's in their 40s or 30s would be different than an athlete who's 17 years old.
That's just one of so many variables that I take into account when I train somebody.
Right. Or even someone who's older, like 90 or 95. They have a whole different dynamic that you need to work at. And my guess is they would get more injury at a different place than they would at your place, because you're keen in on this.
Yeah.
Well, even with exercise, I like to borrow from medicine, and say, do no harm. That's very important. Doctors have to take an oath to do no harm. I think trainers should do the same thing. And part of that doing no harm is making sure that you're not overtraining, making sure that you're not applying forces in the wrong place and causing all these injuries. That's what I did to myself. And that's what my trainers did to me, because I was just doing what I was told.
Right. In everything that we do in today, not just training, there's always those that say do things this way and those that say, well, no, I think there's a different way of doing it. You're obviously the different way of doing it. I know. So the question I have is,
Get them to stop barking, please.
Rough. Why is let's just say the mainstream athletes still working out 3 days a week, hour and a half every day? Why haven't they found this new way of thinking in terms of preventing injuries and to maximize their strength when they're training?
Well, that's not even just athletes. That's normal people. I think they feel like they have to get to the gym 4 to 5 days a week and do like an hour of cardio. So clear up that whole cardio issue as well.
Well, you just brought up a lot of loaded questions. Why people feel like they have to work out all that time? Well, there are a lot of reasons for that. One, some people think they have to. Other people are wired just to do a lot of exercise. They like it. All right. So we got to be careful here. We're at the point of the discussion where a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I like to run. I do all this stuff. You know, that's BS. You know, only once a week." It's important for me to clarify the difference between recreational pursuits and what actually I'm calling exercise.
Right.
Because I'm not saying work out once a week in the type of method that I'm talking about, or maybe twice a week for only 20 minutes at a time, and then do nothing the rest of your life. I'm not saying that if you do what I'm suggesting you do, that you don't need to do anything else. Not in terms of your lifestyle, for sure. What I am saying is that to build muscle, to get stronger, which is the only goal of what I consider high intensity exercises for, to just stay strong. Because as we get older, all the problems that we start getting as we get older is due to muscle loss. A lot of our problems. They even have a medical term for it nowadays. It's called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia, sarco is muscle. Penia obviously is the loss of. All right, so sarcopenia is the medical description of all the situations and disease processes that occur as a result of muscle loss. Right, so to me, building muscle is the number one priority of exercise, and to do it safely. Everything else, the rest of your week, is all kinds of activity, whether it be jogging or bike riding or golf, or it doesn't matter. Do these things. They're all important, but they don't do anything to build muscle. All right. But they are important for so many other reasons. You know, like Tammy, you talking about sweating, right? Getting out there and getting a good sweat going. Nothing feels better than that for a lot of people. Some people hate sweating, so they might not do it for that reason. But some people just want to enjoy the outdoors and garden or walk along the beach or swim or whatever it is. Do all that. Your strength that you get from your high intensity workouts will enable you to do whatever your heart contents.
So your plan, so your exercise plan should be to have that 20 to 30 minute strength training session for muscle, and I feel like it's for bone also.
Yeah.
And then all the other things that you love to do, however you can fit them in.
Exactly, because working out too intensely for too long just has the opposite effect, just like too high a dosage of a drug. Yeah. So if the primary goal is to build muscle and stay strong, you only have to do a short, brief, intense workout once a week. Now, regarding the heart, you just mentioned the bone and how strong muscles affects our bones. Everyone nowadays understands that. To digress, by the way, when I did my research after my boss told me all that and I had all my injuries, when I researched exercise without getting hurt, actually I discovered this technique by the University of Florida because they came about this technique of lifting weights slowly to train women with osteoporosis. And they knew if they did train these women with osteoporosis the conventional way, they'd get hurt. So they said, how do we train women, strength train women that have osteoporosis and not hurt them? Because these conventional Nautilus protocols are just too dangerous for women with osteoporosis. It's going to break their bones. So somebody suggested, hey, how about slowing down the lifting speed? That will reduce the forces on the bones. And lo and behold, this technique was born. And that was in the 80s. So it's pretty common knowledge now that strength training helps with bone density. But what a lot of people don't know yet, and that's why I'm doing this, and thank you for inviting me again, is that by building strong muscles, you're actually improving cardiovascular efficiency. Your heart gets stronger by getting stronger because your heart is a slave to your skeletal muscle. Just like when you lose muscle mass, you lose bone density. Well, just like when you lose muscle mass, you're going to lose cardiac function. Your cardiac function will diminish as a result of muscle loss. So conversely, if you build muscle, it's supply and demand. Your heart will respond to the demand of the muscle. The more muscle you have, the more demand there is on the heart. Not only on the heart, but there's more demand and more tension on the bones, which is why bones get stronger as a result of strength training. Neurological efficiency improves. Digestion improves as a result of building muscle mass. Temperature regulation, glucose metabolism, all these things are improved from building muscle. So to me, the key to health, one of the keys to health, is staying strong. And the good news about that is you can do that if you do it correctly, or efficiently, I should say. You can do it in 20 minutes once a week and not get hurt in the process.
And still be working the heart.
Yes. Again,
cardio.
there are studies that are showing this now. They have compared. McMaster University in Canada has been doing a ton of research on comparing strength training and cardiac function to cardio, the conventional cardio, what we think of cardio, running on a treadmill or a bicycle, and they call it steady state exercise. So they compare hours of cardio or steady state exercise to minutes, relatively minutes of strength training, and then they test the cardiac function before and after, and found that the subjects that were doing the high intensity strength training, their cardiac function improved equally to the group that was doing hours of cardio.
That's
great
news for me, because I can't do cardio for very long because I can't breathe. I can't. After about 10 minutes or so of constant, breathing, I have to stop. I have to rest. So I always kind of felt bad that I couldn't do cardio and get to that, 20, 30-minute mark that everybody said you needed to get to. Physically, it's more stress for me to do that than.
We're all different, and we all possess what we call different muscle fiber types. A lot of people probably have heard of type 1 muscle fiber types, or slow twitch muscle fiber types, and intermediate fiber types, and fast twitch muscle fiber types. These muscle fiber types we're born with, and we all have our own combination of fiber types. And depending upon our combination of fiber types will determine what kind of activity you excel at. If you possess a lot of slow twitch muscle fiber types, you're going to excel at long distance running. All right. Take a duck. They have a lot of slow twitch muscle fiber types, and they can fly forever. A chicken, on the other hand, they have a lot of fast twitch muscle fiber types. That's why you have white meat in the breast, and you have dark meat in the duck on the breast. All right. That white meat is fast twitch muscle fiber types. They can do very fast spurts of energy, but they don't last very long. All right. So the thing is, muscle fiber typing has a lot to do with whether you're going to be good at jogging or good at weight training or explosive movements. And that's what determines the activities that we love to enjoy. If you're somebody that can run like the wind forever, and you have other types of genetic gifts for that, you're going to be a runner. Running doesn't make you thin. Being thin makes you a runner in a lot of cases. So it's the cause and effect is usually the opposite. If somebody has a lot of slow twitch muscle fiber types, all the bodybuilding techniques in the world are not going to make them into this big hulking bodybuilder. They just don't have the body type for it, and vice versa. You're not going to take a bodybuilder type, have them start running marathons, and have them already just thin out and lose all that muscle. It generally doesn't work that way. We have to work to our strengths and understand. And just because you don't do well with jogging and you can't last more than half an hour, doesn't mean you're out of shape. Exactly. It means you have a certain muscle fiber type.
I wonder what kind of muscle fiber type a couch potato has.
Wait a minute. Let's just talk about weight loss for a moment, because
Sure.
I know this is important to people. In this 20-minute strength building, can you lose weight? Like, people equate weight loss with like cardio. So can you still shed the pounds and get the sweat and all of that in that 20-minute time?
No. Then again, no exercise program is going to help you burn all those calories in a certain amount of time.
So how do you help people?
One of my controversial comments is always that exercise is not good for weight loss. And people might have heard this in the past all around. It's not my line, but I hear it all the time, is that weight loss is made in the kitchen. Really your nutrition, your diet is really responsible for your fat storage. Yes, you burn calories when you exercise. Of course you do. And how many calories you burn depends on the intensity of it and the duration of it. But even long, intense, well, first of all, there are no such things as long, intense workouts, because if it's intense, it's not going to last very long. But besides the point, you don't burn a lot of calories doing activities. I mean, typical 170-pound male that runs for an hour at a moderate intensity is going to burn 150 calories, maybe 200 calories. Some people out there might argue with me and say 500 calories an hour. If you look at the signage on like Orange Theory, if you ever pass an Orange Theory studio, they always talk about burning 500 calories an hour, some crazy numbers of calories that you burn during their workout. Even if they were right, which they're not,
Yeah.
even if you were burning 500 calories an hour, does anyone know how many calories are actually in a pound of fat? There are 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. So if you're burning even 500 calories an hour, which is pretty much not true, that still is 7 hours of work for 1 pound. 7 hours of jogging for 1 pound of fat. It hardly seems worth it to me because, first of all, who has 7 hours? Secondly, 7 hours of cardio is going to be hard on the body, and it's going to sap you of all your resources, and it's going to lower your immune system. It's going to tap you of your energy. It's just not a good combination for most people. Again, we all know people that run. They do cardio. That's all they do, and they look great and everything. But those are outliers. Those are people that are built for that.
So, is there a fair statement to say that if you're increasing your strength, because we're talking about weight loss, if you're increasing your strength, that will improve glucose metabolism and by decreasing insulin resistance?
Yes. Well, there you go. So high intensity strength training that builds muscle, it will aid in weight loss for what you just mentioned. When you build muscle, you're improving your body's ability to absorb glucose out of the blood, because you want glucose out of the blood as quickly as you can. Obviously, if you have high blood sugar, you're approaching diabetes, right? And that's one of the markers. That our A1C is what doctors look at all the time for our checkups.
Right.
Well, one way to help your A1C, besides laying off the donuts, is to build as much muscle as possible, because the more muscle you have, the more glucose you can store in your muscles. Now, because muscles store glucose. We store sugar in 2 places in our body: our muscles and our liver. Our liver, not so much. Our muscles, depending on how much muscle you have, can store another about 225 grams of muscle of glucose. After that, after you fill that up, then the rest of it goes to fat, turns into fat. All right, so that's why no amount of exercise is ever going to overcompensate. I mean, it's never going to compensate for overeating. All right, you could be a bodybuilder with all that muscle. If you're going to eat a lot of sugar, even all that muscle is not going to make up for it. So, however, if you are being careful with your diet and you are building muscle, you're doing yourself a great service by really keeping your blood sugar low and managing that blood sugar by having a nice strong muscle that stores sugar, and it draws blood sugar out of the blood and into the muscle and not into fat. So that is an extra boost to a low sugar diet. I mean, I highly recommend people, if they want to lose weight, again, this is a gross overgeneralization, but if someone said to me they want to lose weight, I'd say to them, without knowing anything about them, stop eating sugar. See what happens. Alcohol and sugar. Stop that. We'll take it from there.
Right.
I agree. Totally.
We've been on this webinar now for 45 minutes, and we're running close to time, and I know that Tammy and I have some things that we want to discuss, but I do have one important question for you, Adam, that I just want to bring up. We're always teaching our patients that anything that causes chronic inflammation in the body is bad. And we know that chronic inflammation is cumulative. So can you just briefly explain how overtraining increases overall inflammation in the body?
Well, there's a repair process that happens when you exercise. That repair process includes inflammation. And inflammation in general, in a normal person, is not bad, and it's important. Inflammation in a normal person, a healthy inflammation is you have damage to a cell or a tissue, and the body repairs it. It's the body's repairing process that causes the inflammation, because white blood cells go to the area, they do their work, they rebuild, all kinds of things happen, and then it repairs what it has to repair, and everything goes back to normal. When you are over exercising, you're not allowing the repair process to happen and go away. You're constantly causing muscle damage without allowing enough time for the repair. So if there's constant damage without the proper time to allow it to repair, you're going to have not acute inflammation, which is normal and good. You're going to have chronic inflammation. Add that to also a bad diet. Add that to lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Add that to stress. These are all things that cause inflammation. You add that to poor oral hygiene. Now you have a whole cascade of inflammatory problems that are all chronic and not going away.
Right.
And that's when we run into problems. Now, you can just overexercise and cause inflammation, but you overexercise and all those other things also are occurring. Now you have some serious problems, and you start getting into metabolic syndrome, diabetes, higher risk of infection. You know, we are in the middle of a pandemic. The strong survive. The strong are surviving. And the strong are surviving without the underlying health issues, without all the metabolic syndromes and diabetes and obesity and low vitamin D. These are the people that are getting hit hardest by this COVID.
Yeah.
It's not just age.
Right.
You know, the thing is, age is usually correlated with all these underlying health problems, because the older you get, the more underlying health problems that you have. But that doesn't have to be. That's not inevitable. That's not a guarantee. You can stay strong, eat well into your 80s and survive this.
Right. And decrease your overall inflammation in your body.
Yeah, by doing all those things I mentioned. Sleep well, eat well, exercise properly. Don't over-exercise. Enjoy your life. Get outside, enjoy the sun, get some vitamin D. The list goes on and on.
Right. Well, I can speak to you for another hour, Adam, and ask you all these detailed questions. You're definitely, you're not your typical trainer, but I'm sure that you're amazing at motivating your people to accomplish what their goals are. It's just you have a different way of doing it, which I really want to acknowledge you for that. And
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge you for really taking a stand for so many years, ago, that you realized that there had to be a better way with your commitment to this modality that doesn't really fit into the standard fitness model. And truth be told, you're really, you're really near and dear to my heart, because you're now part of my son's strength training program. He's 17 years old, and I was concerned for him because when I would come home, I was always seeing him. We have stim units at home, like lasers and other electrical stim units, and he was always stimming his shoulder or his ankle. And I would ask him, what's up? He goes, oh, I hurt myself doing these, clapping push-ups, or I twisted my ankle, for strength training for basketball. And, and so now I'm thrilled that you created a better way for him to increase his strength in less time, and without constantly him hurting himself. And now he has more time to be on the basketball court doing his drills and his other things he needs to pursue basketball, which is great.
Yeah, one of my mentors coached a college Division I basketball team out in Seattle. And when they were questioning, when he was training them, they were questioning, shouldn't they be working out more often in the gym? And he said his answer to them was, the more time you spend in the gym, you're turning into weight trainers, not basketball players.
Right. That's great.
So spend more time on the court, become a basketball player. Spend time in the gym just to get stronger, and then go do your sport.
Excellent. Excellent. Tammy, how does thermography help in managing inflammation?
Yeah, I wanted to just touch on this. So thermography is a screening tool that there's no pain, there's no radiation, there's no body contact, and it can screen for a lot of different issues in the body. breast cancer, digestive issues, lymphatic issues. But the one thing that I was thinking about in terms of exercise with what Adam does is different types of neuropathies. Because I know that I see neuropathy in my patients when I do thermography all the time, and they have no symptoms. Because with thermography, you can see things that you don't yet feel. So you can catch things early. So it's like early detection, and then you can work on prevention. So as anyone who's working with a trainer, if they had the information from a thermal image about just what was going on through their spinal column with their vertebrae, the way the relationship between the muscles, where they had compression, what was happening with neuropathy, again, because you just a lot of times you don't even know that you have it. It could take years before you get symptoms. So thermal imaging is one way to track all of these things, all your inflammatory issues in your body before you feel it. So it's way ahead with prevention.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Tommy, I'm seeing some good questions here from our community. I was
Okay.
wondering if we can answer some of them.
Dr. Winnick?
Well, let's just move on. And I know we're
Okay.
approaching the 1 hour point, but we'll honor everyone's time. If they have to get off, we will send you the replay to this. But I'd rather we answer the questions at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm talking out of school.
Okay. So Adam, he addressed how inflammation integrates with what we do. He touched on oral inflammation. He touched on sleeping, which are really big factors that affect us in the dental office. And you know, we follow standard protocols as a dentist, you know, in our practice, because we're all trained and we all follow the license dictated by the state of New York. However, our approach to wellness is different. And just briefly, let me just touch on that. So it's my feeling that being well is all about how much inflammation you have. And you can never get rid of any inflammation because it's part of our healing response. It's important to realize that the mouth, just like the gut, has its own microbiome. And if it's out of balance, we will see an increase in pathogenic microbes. And this causes a reaction with the immune system, and this inflammatory cascade starts. And then we see an increase in these inflammatory mediators. And this causes like biological damage in the mouth that we see as cavities or bone loss around the teeth. But as bad as that is, there's also something called the oral systemic connection. And let me just put up that slide for that. So the oral systemic connection. So this relates to a host of all these different inflammatory diseases throughout the body that are caused by this oral infection, or at least if not directly caused, they're increased by having an oral infection in the mouth that I call it a hidden or oral infection, because you can't open your mouth and look at it and see it unless you first see the destruction of the bone and the teeth. But this oral systemic inflammation or connection includes uncontrolled diabetes, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, osteopenia, breast cancer, prostate cancer, preterm birth delivery, and other autoimmune diseases like celiac disease or rheumatoid arthritis. So wherever you have an inflammatory disease in your mouth, there's an underpinning that it's also being caused or in relation to the infection that's in your mouth. So, and it's important to note that these principles are not holistic. They're really steeped in conventional, traditional medicine and dentistry. So if you do an internet search, you will find thousands of research articles written on this topic. However, my approach to dealing and treating this hidden infection is what really distinguishes me from conventional dentists, similar to how Adam is distinguished from the traditional people who train. And sure, we follow the basic rules. So we follow the basic rules that govern dentistry. However, we do follow a functional medical model. And I believe it's a sustainable model that follows the same laws that are governed by Mother Nature. And if you give the earth or the body what it needs to thrive, and then its innate healing ability kicks in. And in its simplest form, it's all about cause and effect. So first we must identify what is causing the problem. If a patient's mouth is decaying, we must first ask, is it stemming from a microbial imbalance or a nutritional deficiency? Therefore, we start by taking samples of microbes from the mouth, and within minutes, we can make a proper evaluation if an infection is present. And then we review some basic nutritional issues. Then we determine what is the next best step for this particular patient. And it's not a cookbook approach. Now we really don't have time today to go into this in detail, but this next statement is key. And since traditional dental hygiene tools, so you go to your dentist, you see the hygienist, they clean your teeth, but the research shows that these traditional dental hygiene tools are not very effective against treating these pathogens in the mouth. So what we find to be effective is, besides measuring before and after, we use certain lasers that don't cut, and we use ozone to kill, or in essence, we fumigate these microbes, and this will lower the pathogenic load. Then by taking it a step deeper into the sustainable healing approach, we incorporate other adjunctive modalities like nutritional support. Also, I like something that Tammy does. It's called Body Talk. And Tammy, I think we'll talk about it later on. But why is Body Talk important for my patients? Well, because we're trying to get them to a very high state of healing. And we want to tap into their deeper levels of healing, like emotional blockages and things like that. So by tuning into the body's innate healing ability, repair kicks in, and thus the patient may avoid painful gum surgery and tooth extractions and implants that they're being told by their dentist that they always will need. So I would say the key takeaway point is that the gut and the mouth are connected. These microbes exist everywhere in the body, and if you're looking to mitigate many potential inflammatory diseases and to get to the best possible outcome, like what Adam is doing, because Adam is trying to decrease that inflammatory load. So your goal should always be to minimize the pathogens that cause an increase in cytokines and other inflammatory mediators, which cause breakdown in the body and disease, right? So in my feeling, it really is, it's imperative to have this, let's just call it an oral microbial assessment. Otherwise, you just won't know your status of having another possible hidden infection.
Dr. Winnick, can you touch on sleep for just a moment?
Yeah, I'll try to do it quickly. Let me see. So we know that lack of sleep has a wide range of ill effects on your overall health, right? Most people don't know they have a sleeping problem unless they're told by their significant other or a doctor trained to ask the right sleep symptom questions. So, and this ties into what Adam is trying to accomplish with you, since your maximum response to his training is partly determined by the health of your overall systems. And for example, his training is so important, as he discussed, because increasing strength improves your glucose metabolism, right? We discussed that by decreasing insulin resistance. And insulin also regulates the metabolism of fats and protein. So as Adam pointed out, increasing strength improves glucose metabolism by decreasing this insulin resistance. And this is so important. And so if you're not sleeping well and you're basically fighting an uphill battle against the benefits that Adam is trying to achieve with you. And so some key facts. Insufficient and poor quality sleep can decrease insulin sensitivity and decrease glucose metabolism, right? So sleeping has a huge effect on your glucose metabolism. A single night of total sleep deprivation decreased insulin sensitivity more than 6 months of a high-fat diet. Let's just talk about partial sleep deprivation, the kind of chronic sleep that many people experience on a routine basis. So it's not all the time. This decreases the body's ability to use insulin effectively, and it also affects how you keep blood sugar balanced. So now let's talk about and sleep's role in diet and weight, because besides having an effect on diabetes, and we discussed weight loss previously, but it should be noted that sleep has a big effect on your ability to lose weight, because poor quality and insufficient sleep alters the hunger hormones. And when we don't get enough high quality sleep, levels of the hormones, it's called leptin, it goes down. And leptin is a hormone that helps maintain energy balance in the body. So it curbs your appetite. So leptin also helps regulate metabolism and the rate at which the body burns fat. So lower leptin levels slow metabolism down. And then at the same time, poor sleep that lowers leptin, it also increases the levels of another hormone, which is important to energy balance and weight, and it's called ghrelin. And ghrelin stimulates your appetite. It's increasing hunger and the desire to eat. So the double hit of hormone imbalance is you have reduced leptin and increased ghrelin. And that could make it difficult to maintain a healthy weight. So if you're fighting this challenge, you might want to do a sleep study, or even something that you might want to do simply, because everyone who has, let's say, sleep apnea, they snore. Not everyone who snores has sleep apnea. So there's an app on you can get. It's called Snore Lab, and it'll basically measure your sleeping, your noise if you're snoring at night, and that'll give you the first signs that, well, maybe there is a sleep disturbance going on. And also on Tammy's gift page, which you'll hear about later on, she has it's called a sleep hygiene checklist. So that will also be helpful for you to see how well you're sleeping. So what I've also discovered, to maximize any healing modality, you need mental and emotional health, which is imperative. And that's why I call Tammy my secret weapon. She has not only pulled me personally out of the abyss many times, but has helped me be more effective in getting my patients well with her emotional techniques. So Tammy, with the time we have left, can you add to our conversation to help maximize our listeners' health and help bring them to greatness?
Sure. Just change the slide. I'm going to go through it quickly to the 4 T's of timing. So one of the concepts that I can share is the 4 T's of timing. And our life is really about timing, rhythm, and synchronicity. So if we have mental blocks, or we have conditioned programming that's actually running our thinking, which actually runs our habits, time isn't really going to flow for us, and we're going to lose motivation. So how do we alter timing? I use the 4 T's of timing in hundreds of ways. It just depends on the circumstance, the block, whatever the person is dealing with. So in this case, we'll look at it from the perspective of exercise. And the 4 T's of timing are transitions, transmutations, transformation, and transcendence. So these can all be happening and affecting you on different levels, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And because you're a product of your environment, you're also a reflection of your environment, you can have these blocks, so you can have this can be affecting you at home or at work. So here is an example with exercise. Let's start with transition. Transitioning could mean that you have to shift your schedule and your priorities to allow the space for exercise. This will create a transition in your home, your work environment, so it's the very first thing you need to consider. What is it that you have to do to transition so that you can create the time to actually begin to exercise? Then you've got transmutation. The question I always ask is, what will you be shedding? So what do you habitually do that may be preventing you from exercise? And you may have to shed some old habits. And with exercise, you can actually start to shed toxins. So transmutation is actually about shedding. looking at where you need to shift. Transformation. In transformation, you may start to find that your perceptions change. Your perceptions change as your health improves and your fitness improves, or in the way what Adam's been talking, your strength. And with transformation, you'll have more clarity for your choices, more clarity for your decisions, and then you can begin to transform your life situations. And then you eventually move into transcendence. And as you transcend your blocks or your resistance to exercise, it will be easier, it will be smoother, and you'll have less friction when you're starting to create new health, new habits, and you actually will start to move into a higher level of thinking. So you have to ask yourself if you feel you are transitioning, transmuting, transforming, or transcending. And this can actually help you make decisions and choices and get a new perspective on what may be blocking you. So just look at the 4 T's of timing and realize that it can help you have more free time, better health, and actually a lot more fun because you feel better.
You know, I'm just curious, Tammy, you know, I've never heard this from you before.
Yeah.
You know, where did this come from, and how important have these principles been to you?
I created these principles many, many years ago when I was teaching the 5 charms of self-empowerment. It's part of a program, but I use them for myself all the time, and I use them in Body Talk all the time.
Uh-huh. So I'm just curious, if you didn't have these principles, where would your life be today?
Well, as I said before, people don't realize life is about rhythm, it's about flow, and it's about timing. So I was realizing that anytime my rhythm and flow was off, it was coming from blocks. And when I correlated synchronicity and timing into my life, I realized that when you're blocked, you literally block that greater flow that the universe has for you. So, you know, where would I be? I'd probably be stuck. You know, as a lot of people are. A lot of people that I see for Body Talk, they're stuck. They're stuck with creating time, and it could be for exercise, it could be for many, many different things. And they're also stuck in a lack of motivation. And since we're talking about exercise, when I work with people who are into more, you know, professional athletic type of things, their stuckness is in low self-esteem, performance anxiety, and comparing themselves to others. So you take all of that stuff, that's a big mess when those are the programs that you're running. It really gets in your way. So I use Body Talk sessions, distance now, since we're doing a lot of remote work, to help people move past that mental and emotional block. But so Body Talk, just so if you don't know, I talk about it a lot. It is a way to tap into your subconscious to hear what the messages of your body are. So it's your unique situation and it's your unique message. It doesn't come from an agenda from like the practitioner. It is all about what your body has to say about your life and your belief systems and what you're thinking and feeling. So it's a very unique session. I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
So do I. Thanks, Tammy. And I'm just wondering how the blame game fits into all that, but that's a time for a different webinar.
I can talk for hours about the blame game.
Exactly. You know, I want to thank everyone for hanging in there and being with us today. And, you know, the reason we are bringing this webinar to you is really to disrupt that pattern you may be in. Our goal is to bring you the mind, body to a calm energy state. Then we are helping you celebrate that higher energy states of life without suffering. I think Adam is all about not suffering and really reaching a higher energy state. So thank you, Adam, for being with us. The 3 of us are leaders in health and wellness, and these are the things that we do to stay healthy and balanced. And we want to share our experiences that work.
Yeah, these are all solutions that can help you along on your path, and they can help you strategize and get to the next level, get to a better way of living and being. You can't, Dr. Winnick, are we getting into the recap slide? I just wanted to say a little bit about scheduling. Is that coming up? Because
That's coming up in a moment. You want
I
to just go
want to know
over,
how to get to us. Yeah.
I want to just go over the slide. Oh, hold on, please. This slide first, who we are and how they can reach us.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. You want me to read that?
Yeah. For our listeners, some people don't see the screen.
Okay, let me just pull it up so I can see it.
I can read it if you want.
Okay, I can read it. So the screen says, you know, what if this information could create a breakthrough and give you peace of mind? These are potential pieces of the puzzle to keep yourself and your loved ones healthy during this unsettling time. These are the ways to create a tremendous shift in your health. Obviously, you can contact Adam Zickerman for an appointment. His phone number is 212-755-9895. His website is informfitness.com. And for those participating in today's webinar, he's actually giving a 20% off virtual workout session with him personally. And I can only tell you that my son is doing this, and I spoke to him this afternoon, and he says, again, Adam, you were great. So thank you for that. You can contact me, Dr. Reed Winnick, for a complimentary oral microbial assessment. My number is 212-973-9425. And my website is TFHNY.com. And you can contact Tammy Kolschmidt to schedule a remote body talk session. You can either call or text her at 917-743-3767, or you can email hello@thermographyforhealthny.com. And she has like a ton of these gifts on her web page. She's giving $25 off a thermal scan for new patients, $25 off a body talk session for new patients, and also Deep Blue and Aroma Touch information, and the link to the Snore Lab app. So to receive these gifts, click the either the gift link on the webinar replay page, or you can go to thermwellness.com. Tammy and I are big fans of the magnetic water irrigator called the HydroFloss. So if you go to their website and you order their device, use the discount code 14031 and they'll give you some kind of discount. If you want to do a oral microbial assessment either on your own, or you want to see if your dentist can get it done for you, their website is oraldna.com. And, you know, we spend so much time detoxing. The worst thing you want to do is retox yourself with bad water. So we recommend the Pure 2.0 water filtration and purification system. Their website is PUR2O.com, or their phone number is 888-393-1828.
Great.
Okay. You want to do some recaps here of important points? Can you see the screen, Adam?
Yes,
Adam?
I muted myself. Yes. You want me to read it off?
Yeah, please.
All right. Well, to recap, intense exercise should be safe and should be brief. Sports and athletics are not good forms of exercise, but of course, they're great forms of recreation and competition and all the things that come from athletics. But it's not good exercise. It can cause injury. It's not efficient. Exercise is also not efficient at burning calories. If you want to lose weight, of course, building muscle raises your metabolism and helps. But of course, weight loss happens in the kitchen.
I like that.
Lifting weights slowly, which is it's the main principle of our technique of lifting weights slowly until muscle exhaustion. Lifting weights slowly reduces the forces that cause a lot of injuries. And lastly, our body responds not to some arbitrary number of repetitions or length of time, but to muscular fatigue. To get stronger, you have to fatigue the muscles deeply enough.
Great. Thanks, Adam. The things that I'd like you to really remember, if nothing at all, is that it's all about inflammation. Hidden gum and tooth infections create systemic inflammation, which affects your immune system and increases your risk of getting a disease. We must identify what is causing the problem. Your goal should always be to minimize the pathogens that cause an increase in cytokines and other inflammatory mediators. Same to you. And poor sleep affects hormones that influence metabolic health.
Thermography allows us to see what we may not yet feel, which is chronic inflammation, because it can go unnoticed until it causes a dysfunction. Reflect on the 4 T's of timing as a way to gain insight into any situation. Body talk can help you with mental or emotional blocks that may be inhibiting you to moving forward in your life. And body talk can help with self-sabotage and supportive belief systems about yourself and your capabilities. I didn't touch on this, but I will say try Deep Blue Rub or Aroma Touch Essential Oil by doTERRA. It can help with muscle repair and recovery and nervous system support. So if you want to know more about those oils, just contact me. We can talk about it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Adam, you still have some more time to stay with us?
Yes, I can answer some questions. There were some good questions I saw in the chat group and the Q&As.
Okay, you want to, can you see them, or you want me to read them?
I can see them. I can start with the chat if you
Okay,
want.
great.
One of the questions is to describe a typical routine of the exercise that I described. So it's a full body workout, so it only takes about 6 exercises, give or take. You can do a set of push-ups. If you can't do it from the toes, you can do it from the knees. Do it again very slowly until you just collapse. A pair of squats. You can use a chair to squat onto, so when you reach fatigue, you just expire right onto the chair. You don't have to fall to the ground. If you have a pair of dumbbells or bands, you can just lift them over your shoulders for a shoulder type press. You can lay on your side and lift your legs sideways, do a hip abduction. Again, very slowly until you exhaust yourself. Bicep curls, very easy with a set of dumbbells. All this, you can use a ball, an exercise ball is another thing. You can do abs on an exercise ball. You can do all kinds of hamstring work on an exercise ball by putting your heels on the ball. You're laying flat on the floor and you put your heels up on the ball and you lift your butt up in the air from that position. That's also a great hamstring and butt exercise. I have a book. It was a New York Times bestseller for 1 week, actually, back in the day. It has all the home routines that you can do with a nominal amount of equipment. You know, just a couple of dumbbells, a bench, a chair, maybe a step stool, and a ball, and you can pretty much work out your whole body in a very efficient 20-minute manner. It takes a little practice, but the key to any exercise that you do. So if you have your regular exercise routine with the weights, just try lifting weights really slowly. And instead of stopping right when the burn starts, just hang in there. Even if you can't do another rep, just hold it. Just hold it for another 10 seconds and breathe while you're doing it. Never hold your breath when you're exercising. That's another key. Lift weights slowly, breathe freely, never hold your breath, no grunting and groaning, and try to see how deeply you can fatigue the muscle. It's not the intensity that causes injury, it's the force that causes injury. Force and intensity are 2 different things. Force is mass times acceleration, Newton's law of force. So lifting a mass too fast is what causes the forces that cause injury. As long as you're lifting weights very slowly, that muscle fatigue is not going to hurt you. It's just going to expire the muscle. Another question that came up is, are you going to experience a lot of soreness from this? Not really, and especially if you don't push yourself too hard, too fast. Build yourself up slowly with this. You don't have to work out to complete muscle failure or complete muscle fatigue the very first time that you do this. So that's important to keep in mind. But typically you don't get very sore because our technique doesn't really hurt the joints too much. A lot of soreness from conventional workouts come in the joints. You're not going to feel that kind of pain in the joints after a workout like this.
So someone asked, how do you determine your muscle fiber type?
Yeah, we talked about muscle fiber types and what we end up being good at based on those fiber typing. Well, really, without doing a muscle biopsy, it's hard to do that. But you don't need to. As a trainer, you know, you, you, you can tell by what you're good at. You know, if like Tammy knows she's not really good at running, so Tammy probably doesn't have a lot of slow twitch muscle fiber types. You know, your response to exercise will, and how you respond to exercise will kind of determine for you what muscle fiber typing you are. And muscle fiber typing also is different for every muscle group. In other words, you do a muscle biopsy of your thigh and you find out what your muscle fiber typing is in your thigh. It doesn't mean it's the same muscle fiber typing in your upper body. So to actually get muscle fiber typing done is ridiculous and not necessary. Again, how you respond to exercise, what you're good at will slowly determine over time what your muscle fiber typing is. And it doesn't matter. Just work out hard. Whatever your muscle fiber typing is work out hard to fatigue and you're going to improve all your muscle fiber types, regardless of what muscle fiber type combination you have.
Thank you. A couple of people are asking for the name of your book.
The name of my book is called Power of 10, the once a week slow motion fitness revolution.
Great.
It's still in print. Yeah, you can get it anywhere for Amazon. It's cheap now. It's been out for so long.
And I know that you have a whole bunch of videos on your website, informfitness.com. I imagine that would give people a deeper sense of what you're about and what they would experience by the trainings that you offer.
Can you repeat that? What's the question?
What I'm saying is, I imagine that the videos on your website
Yeah.
people a deeper insight to what you're about and the type of training and the structure of your training.
Yeah, we have a lot of videos. We have testimonial videos. We have press, you know. I've done a lot of shows, TV shows, but also we have some instructional videos on there as well. So all categories on our website for that. Plus, I have a blog and a podcast. So you can read all my articles on this subject. I do a podcast. You know, I do probably a couple episodes each month. It's funny you should bring up sleep before because my next podcast is about sleep and all the research that's being done on sleep. It's a very interesting subject. Very interesting subject.
Great. Here's a question. Yeah, Tammy.
They just go to the Q&As because there's different questions there.
Yeah, I'm here now. So there's a question. This is of great interest to me, but I do need to ask. It was said that the strength training. It was said that the strength training deeply fatigues the muscles, and then you need to let the body rest. My question is, does the body feel fatigued for a period of time after the intensity strength training, or is it so carefully adjusted to each individual that the deep fatigue isn't an interference to one's daily functioning?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. It's a common question when we talk about, you know, the need for rest. You're not debilitated. When I talk about needing 5 to 7 days rest between workouts, it's not because you're debilitated for the next 5 days and sore as can be. It's when you're a beginner and you push yourself really hard, yes, maybe for a couple of days you can feel a little tired from it, but you get used to that pretty quickly. That's why we exercise, to kind of build up that endurance and that strength. Normally you feel a little out of sorts for an hour or so afterwards, you know, but in a good way. You're kind of like, woo, I just had a good work. You know, when you had a really good workout, you kind of feel a little light on your feet, you know, a little shaky, maybe a little trembly, you know, but that goes away over time. And most people feel like that because they realize they did something good, you know, but no, there's not severe discomfort. I mean, there are certain people, a small part of the population, they get super duper sore from exercise, even this type of exercise. but it's not too common. It's not too common.
Great. Let's see. Someone's asking, how do we take advantage of the exercise program you were presenting? I assume call you up?
Yeah, you can, yes, you can call us up, or you can email. I guess I'll give you our number at the gym is 212-755-9895. 755-9895. Nowadays, since we're not really there too much, maybe the best way to do it is to email me at adam@informfitness.com. Adam@informfitness, INFORM fitness.com. We are doing virtual workouts right now. So if you are interested in kind of doing an in-home routine and not visiting our gyms when we reopen, we have one on Long Island. We have one in Midtown Manhattan. But if you're calling from anywhere and you want to just learn how to do this workout with whatever you have available to you, whether it be dumbbells, water jugs, sandbags, there are still principles here that can be applied. And through a couple of virtual workouts, even just one virtual workout, you can really learn how to use whatever you have available to you and learn how to do this workout the proper way, the efficient way, the safe way. Just like I'm doing with your son, Skylar, doctor.
Yep. Yep. Another question is, I used to be a dancer, not me, somebody else. Had a good stretch. Now I can't open my legs wide to stretch because my inner hamstrings are tight and I feel pain. I had been dealing with this for over 15 years. I never suffered any injury. Could it be I have scar tissue? Question. Do you know a holistic specialist I can see in California?
Yeah, you might. I mean, you might not have had an acute injury, but maybe all those years and years of dancing, especially if it was a type of dancing that required you to really do those splits and things like that, you might have just created a chronic problem over time, just doing that all the time. And now you feel pain when you do those stretches. You're probably right. It's probably some scar tissue. It might be some arthritis as well. Depends where you're feeling that pain. As far as the holistic special, I mean, I wish somebody like Michael Gilbert in your office would be perfect for this woman.
Totally perfect.
I'm assuming it's a woman.
Yeah.
I shouldn't assume that. Men dance too, right? But
You sure do.
maybe we can maybe we can get this person's information and ask Michael Gilbert if he knows somebody of his quality out in Well, California's a pretty big state too, so maybe we can find out where in California, and Michael can help guide. You need a good body worker, somebody like Michael Gilbert that works out of Dr. Winnick's office. A good body worker, a good massage therapist could probably help with that situation if they know what they're doing.
Right.
Someone who does rolfing. That's ROLFI.
Yes, that's right. So a good rolfer, exactly.
Oh, great. Excellent. Someone was asking about things you can use in your home, like gallons of water. I think you addressed that question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's body weight workouts you can do. A set of TRX straps, if you know what those are, can come in handy. There's so many things you can do. They're basic movements that we can all do. I didn't do a lot of virtual workouts leading up to this pandemic. Now I'm an expert at it, doing probably 100 virtual workouts a week at this point.
Wow.
I can tell you, I've used everything at this point, including a kitchen sink, literally. There's a lot. I mean, even if you don't do a virtual workout with me, you can go online, for example, and look up body weight exercises and just do them slowly. That's probably halfway there.
The start.
It's not the best way because, I mean, there are some biomechanical, a lot of the conventional stuff have you do things that can really hurt a joint. Like I think one of the things that pops in my head is with the lateral raise, when you're standing up and you're pulling your arms away from your sides, that shoulder exercise, that's really hard on the shoulder. And it's a very popular exercise. And I cringe every time I see people doing it.
Right.
There are ways of working the shoulder joint without screwing up the rotator cuff muscles of the shoulder joint. It's a very complicated and tricky part of the body to strength train with free weights. So It does help to work with an expert on this. It doesn't take a lot of time. Once you learn the technique, once you learn the tricks, you can be off and running on your own.
Right. And and that's the key, because positioning is what it's about. And it's a lot easier. It's a lot quicker to damage something in your body than it is to repair it. That's the law of entropy. So even if you see Adam, like just for a few sessions to get it down properly, I think that will save you in the long run from a lot of grief.
Right.
Another question is, this is not my question, this is someone else's question. Does a vibrator benefit bone?
Yeah, those vibrating platforms that she's talking about, I assume.
I hope so. I don't know.
I don't know much about those, but it is a stimulus, right? I mean, I can see it working
Yeah, I
to
understand
an
the
extent.
for sure.
I can see it working. I don't know a lot about that to answer that question. Somebody else asked about gallon bottles of water. Yes, a gallon of water weighs a little bit over 8 pounds. So if you're working with gallon bottles of water, you know you're working with an 8-pound dumbbell.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah. Who else would know that but a biochemist? Adam Zickerman. Thank you, Adam. And for all those watching today, this will be recorded, and it has been recorded, and it will be sent out to you hopefully in just a couple of days, hopefully. So please pass this on to your friends and loved ones, and hopefully, you can help others the way we're trying to help you guys. So I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we will be seeing you at our next webinar.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.